Okay, in the last video I managed to sort out the memory and the really bad soldering I'd done back in the mid 1990s, but when I've plugged it in I've still got the same issue. Screen's flickering really badly. So the good thing, and the thing I didn't really have in the mid 1990s, even though I think it was the basic days of the internet, and I had done a little bit of research which had led me to the memory possibly being the issue. I know the memory's good in there now, but it hasn't fixed the issue. Still got the problem with the screen flickering very badly. One thing I did notice when I was looking back at it though, when I initially switched it on, there was a lot of background noise with that static. Now it's just the static but not the background noise. So right now I'm testing the voltage regulators just to see what output I'm getting on them. And I used, I think it's pronounced Yarn Beater's video. He had a similar one when I did a search on YouTube. That one come up. So again, it was quite helpful because some of the things he did was give me the readings of various parts of the board and what voltages you should expect. However, the only downside with it was he was doing it on an unpopulated board that he had acquired. So he did say that the voltages might be slightly different. If you look at this piece of paper here, you'll see these are the voltages he was getting on the various pin outputs. So right there, he's got 5 volts DC, I've got 5 volts DC. That's all good. Here, so this should be 11 volts AC. I'm getting around, again, not a million miles out. I'm sort of happy with that. So again, what I'm doing, I'm just writing down what results I'm going to be getting. Just so again, it makes it easier to compare later on. Again, his board was unpopulated, so he did say that his voltage was slightly higher. So on there, I'm getting 12 volts. He was getting 12 volts on his one. Now here, if I get the leads around the right way, see, I'm only getting 3.91. He was getting 5 volts. So straight away, this is leading me to possibly that's where my issue is. Luckily, I do have another Commodore 64. So what I thought I would do is open this up, check the voltages on the other side. Again, I wasn't sure what my voltage on the video he did. He didn't do the incoming legs of the voltage regulators, so I wasn't sure what voltages to expect there. So I thought if I use my good Commodore, see what voltages I'm getting on that. It's a slightly different revision board. This is a 1984 issue board. As you can see, a lot of things have changed. For a start off, it's all socketed, which I kind of like, except for the memory. Memory isn't socketed, but all the chips are socketed on this one. So again, I'm getting my 5 volts there. I'm getting, again, what I was getting on the other one. Very similar. So about 9 volts, 9.8. So now if I go to these voltage regulators, 7 volts. So there, I'm getting 5.04 volts, roughly 5 volts on that output leg of the voltage regulator. Again, knowing the output's one good thing, but knowing the input, I think in this particular case, definitely helped. So looking at the output, I know 3.9 volts is not going to be enough. But is it's failing through the voltage regulator, or is it failing before it gets to the voltage regulator? Is it getting enough voltage in that voltage regulator to actually do it? Getting that one's correct. I think he's got 6 to 7 volts there. I've got just over 5 volts. Again, he had an unpopulated board. So I'm getting 7.76 on that incoming leg of the voltage regulator. Now if I check it on the one that I know that's good and working, I'm getting just over 11 volts DC on that. So there's my issue, I think. The voltage going into the voltage regulator isn't high enough. That one, again, just need to up the voltage scale a little bit, because this one goes just over 20 volts. So 20.5 volts, very similar to my other board. So again, I think I check it on here. Yeah, it's a 21.4. Not a million miles apart. You expect a couple of points of a volt difference between the two boards. Again, if you look at the modifications, yeah, you can see there should be a difference, but there shouldn't be that much of a difference. So right now, I'm suspecting it's whatever's feeding into that voltage regulator, which is this little bridge rectifier here. So if I check the back, again, is it the voltage going into the bridge rectifier, or is it the voltage coming out of the bridge rectifier that's causing the issue? So if I test between the AC points here, so I'm getting roughly 10 volts AC going into that. And then my output is 7.73 volts. So definitely getting an issue there, too low. Check it on the other board. Like I say, you can see the revision's very different, the whole way things are laid out, but bridge rectifier still in the same place. A couple of the chips have moved around as well, like where the SID chip is different between this revision and the other one. Just moved from up to down, down to up. So I'll just check the voltage on my good board that I know is working, see what I'm getting as my input AC and then as my output DC. And again, depending on what multimeter you're using, like my one now, I've got a little switch in the top right hand corner, so I've got to switch it to AC first. So that one, again, roughly 10 volts coming in, so same as what I've got on that board. But output wise, yeah, you see now I need to switch it over to DC. See now I'm getting 11.06 as my DC output on that one, whereas on the other one I'm getting 7.76. Massive difference. So my first suspect is got to be the bridge rectifier, that possibly it's failed. That's my culprit, I think. So I had to wait a couple of days, ordered one. Now, it should be the correct part number, but you'll see it is slightly bigger than the one that's in there. Doesn't cause an issue at all, as long as the legs go through there, because the legs are quite thick on that. It obviously can just probably take a higher amount of ampage, but it's still basically just a it's basically 4 diodes in there. That's all it is, and it turns the waveform from a AC waveform to a rectified DC supply. So now if I test my input voltage, still getting my 10 volts coming in. Good. Let's see if my output come up at all. No, still getting 7.85. So if I check my output again, check my input, I'm getting 7.84 volts. On my output, I'm still getting 3.91 volts. So the voltage regulator is still not giving me, it's not getting the correct voltage going in. So again, just to make sure that's not shorting, I thought I would change that, put a new 5-volt voltage regulator in there, see if that's causing me the issue. So just doing the last bit of desoldering here, got it out nice and clean. Just clean up them holes to get the next, the new voltage regulator in there. So with the voltage regulator removed, I'm just going to test the voltage, see if I've got 11 volts, and I haven't. I've only got 9.23. Obviously nothing on the output because I don't have a voltage regulator in there. So again, it doesn't look like the voltage regulator is what's really dropping the voltage. But again, I've got it out, I might as well replace it. So this takes the voltage down from 11 volts to 5 volts. The other regulator is a slightly higher voltage. So again, when I'm fitting this, I'm just going to put the heatsink back in. I'm going to bend the pins, put the screw back through the middle for that heatsink. Just to make sure when I do solder it down, I'm soldering it down in the right position. If I solder it, then try and fit it to the heatsink afterwards, chances are it's not going to line up and I'm going to have to desolder it and solder it back in again anyway. So it's quite important to just make sure that the hole lines up on this. So once I'm happy with that, just get my little screw in there. Again, I need to apply some more heatsink compound to it, but for now, just want to hold it in place, tighten it up. Forgot to bring any spanners with me, so I thought I'd just use a pair of cutters to hold that nut on the bottom. Not ideal, but it does the job. It didn't cause any damage to it. So now I've got my new voltage regulator wired in. Let me see what I'm getting. So again, still getting the 7.76, 3.87 voltage output. So clearly that is not the issue. So now we've changed the voltage, bridge rectifier, voltage regulator. My next thing was to try some of the chips. I thought some of these chips are removable. Let me remove them. So that's the VIC-2 chip coming out there. Let's put that over there. And that's my SID chip. Just thought I'd remove them, just see if that causes the voltage to spike back up again. Just get the multimeter out again. It's gone up a little bit, but not a great amount. I mean, it's closer to the 5 volts now, but I'm still at 4.34. So to me, I don't suspect them chips. I don't think the chips are causing the issue here. This is the VIC-2 chip from the 1984 motherboard, the revision 4 motherboard. Plugged it in there. And again, something I didn't do. So you look, still got the same issue. However, I can't say this is a good test because of that. I didn't check it properly. Luckily enough, I didn't cause any damage to it. But it could have so easily just touched that outer case in there and killed that VIC-2 chip off. So again, sometimes it's better to be patient and just check everything over before you put power on it. Again, at this point, I'm sort of still trying to find what the fault is, so wasn't paying attention. Luckily enough, I didn't break that pin off, and this VIC-2 chip's good enough to fight another day. So I'm just going to reinsert it again and make sure all the chips are where they should be now. All the chips are supposed to. Make sure all the pins are where they should be now. Now, what I thought is I'll try the VIC-2 chip from the broken one in the good board and see what I get. So power it on. Would help if I plug the monitor in, of course. That always helps things. Works a lot better. I got to remember TVs aren't psychic. And yep, that's fine. So I know my VIC 2 chip looks like it's good. So my next port of call is there's some diodes on the board, which again would be causing voltage issues, and also capacitors as well. So again, what I'm going to do is take a voltage reading from each one of these diodes, write it down. So again, this is the good board that I'm on right now, so I know these voltages should be fairly accurate. Yeah, again, 0 volts there, 0 volts there, 4.2 volts on that one, 14.6 out. So just update my sheet here. So again, you can see my voltages I'm getting in and out on each one of the capacitors. Now I'm trying the same thing on my board that needs repairing still. And a lot of the voltages are the same. However, when I get over, there we go, 7.7. Yeah, 7.7 on that chip. Now if I get my sheet and compare it with the other one, as you can see, there is a massive discrepancy there. So on the good board, I'm getting 11.2 volts off of the end of that capacitor. On this one, I'm getting my 7.76. I've got a feeling it might be this capacitor that's the issue. Now the issue I have now is I don't have a 2200 microfarad capacitor, but I do have electronic knowledge, and I do have a pack of capacitors here. So just for test purposes, what I'm going to do is put a load of these electrolytic capacitors in parallel with each other. So again, with a capacitor, if you want to increase the amounts of capacitance using multiple capacitors, you put them in parallel. If it's resistors, you put them in series. So right now I've picked out 2000 microfarad capacitors and 200 microfarad capacitors. Remove what I think is the faulty capacitor now. And now to make up my my lovely cluster of capacitors. So as you can see, these are in parallel with each other. I will, if this works, I will change this. I'm not going to leave it like this because it just looks horrendous. I know it's hidden in the computer, but still, I will know it's there. And yeah, it doesn't look the best, but for test purposes, it will do for now, just to see if it is that capacitor that's causing the issue. So fingers crossed. Let's see what we get. So test the voltage. So right now I was getting 7.76 volts on the output. What am I getting now? Oh, so I'm getting 10.9 there, and I think it was something like 11.2 on the good one. So that's looking promising. So now let me just test. Think on the input here, yeah, it was 0 volts. Getting nothing. There we are. So I'm getting, yeah, as I say, nearly 11 volts out there. So now if I just test my voltage regulator, I'm getting 4.5 volts. That's looking good. That is looking very good. And I've got a screen. No more flickering. Not a brilliant screen because I've got a dollar sign in the middle of it, or towards the bottom of it, and it looks like another dollar sign flicking away. Thought I'd just try Jupiter Lander here, the cartridge, just to see what that comes up like. And as you can see, it's all garbled. I tried plugging a keyboard in with this as well, just to see if I press F1 whether it would do anything, because on this game you got to press F1 to start. But yeah, tap away, nothing, absolutely dead. So I'm getting the screen but not getting anything else. Did buy this a while back as well, so that's my first time to actually try this thing out. It's a dead test cartridge. It's an 8-in-1 cartridge actually. I'll leave a link below of I think I bought this one on eBay, but you can make it yourself or buy them ready made. A brilliant bit of kit if you've got to try and do any fault finding. So I'm going to put this in now. I've got it in dead test because obviously I'm not getting a proper output on it. Just see what it comes up with. Bearing in mind this is the first time I've used this cartridge, so again, hopefully this will help others if they get this cartridge as well, because I turned it on and I'm like, really? Is that good or bad what it's doing right now? And luckily enough, the person I bought it from put an instruction booklet in there with it, so I could actually see what this means. So, like I say, I haven't tried it on a good Commodore 64, I haven't tried it on anything. I'm just trying it for the first time on this bad Commodore 64. And where's my screen? Right. So as you can see, I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flashes. So if you look it up on the chart there, that tells you if it's flashing, it's basically a memory issue, and depending on how many flashes it gives you depends on what memory it is. So bearing in mind they were my 3 rogue memories at the top, it's saying that this memory here is bad, so I'm just going to test it. Let it do its magical lights. Yeah, bad. That's a good thing. Well, it's not a good thing if you don't have any more memory, but luckily enough I have bought one. I did have some spare memory. So, again, I thought I'd put a socket in for this new memory anyway, just so I can change it if I need to. Just pressing the pins down to get it in place. So with this new memory in it, let's see if we get anything any better now. Well, I don't have the dollar sign anymore, but now I've got nothing. I'm not getting any text at all up on there. Just thought I'd try again, just make sure I'm not missing something, but nah, it's something different. So I thought I'd try the dead test cartridge again and see what I get this time. Again, blank screen. I'm thinking it's not doing the flashing now, so is this a good thing or a bad thing? And then I just get a screen full of gibberish, and I'm like, okay, right. So has it got an issue with a graphical, like one of the graphic chips have gone in it, or some of the logic chips gone in it? And again, I could just see something whizzing around here. I don't know any better. I don't know what this means. To me, this is just garbage. I'm like, yeah, no clue at all. Just know that obviously there is a chip in there that's still not functioning correctly. So even though changing that capacitor, changing that memory's done something, still not fixed the issue. Giving me a different issue, but still not a working computer yet. again, I thought maybe it might do something, might flicker into something else, do something different, but nah, that's all I'm getting. So I thought, well, bearing in mind I don't know what this is supposed to look like when it is working, I'll try it on my non-working Commodore 64 and see what I get here. So again, this is just a dead test. So I've got my blank screen again for an uncomfortably long amount of time. And that's what I should be getting right now. So in that garbage, you can see as things are getting added on. So you can see in the background it is working, and you can see that little cursor kind of flickering along, flashing along, which was happening on the other garbled screen. So it looks like it is working to a point, but I'm just getting garbage on the screen. I've still not got a clear, good picture right now. But it's a very promising sign. It does mean that I'm coming near to the end of fixing it. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not getting the wild flickering anymore of the screen. I can actually see something happening. When I put in the Jupiter Lander cartridge, for example, I can see I'm getting text, albeit garbled, and it can't play the game yet, but it's doing something. So again, it does this as well, where it goes blank and then it will test the SID chip. Okay, and once it's done the SID chip, it'll just then go through everything again that it did before. Just keeps on scrolling through and scrolling through. As I was testing as well, one of the things, again, I noticed on Yarn Beater's one was he was tapping the chips. I thought, well, I'll try tapping the chips, especially the memory chip I just put in, and you can see what happens on the screen. Then after I'd done that, I thought I'll switch it off, switch it back on again. I'm getting that. Definitely likes that particular thing. So again, I'll leave a link in the website I use below, but when I was looking through this website, it was kind of gibberish on, because obviously now it's gone from a flickering no screen to a gibberish on screen problem. So it was saying, if you get this, try this chip, it could be this chip, it could be this chip. So in the end I thought, you know what, I've spared you all the kind of desoldering underneath. I'm just kind of heating these ones up quickly just to remove them, but I've already removed a lot of the solder. This is just to kind of release them. I thought I'm going to socket every single one of these chips now, so then I can swap them with my good computer of my good chips, just to see which one of these chips is failing. Because again, from what I can see right now, that's what it appears to me, that it's got to be one of the chips is causing an issue. So again, right now I haven't touched any of the logic chips. I've just gone for the main chips. I just thought, swap them over first to see what I'm getting. And again, this is what you'll get with fault finding, is you'll find a lot of this is trial and error, kind of going through the same stuff over and over again, and kind of checking and double checking what you did before, and eventually you kind of eliminate all your issues. You know kind of what is working, and then whatever's left obviously is your problem. But it's getting to that stage of, and again, taking these, desoldering these chips, soldering the sockets in, it does take time. But again, it's a worthwhile exercise, I think, especially for a computer like this, because ultimately these computers are getting older every year. These chips will fail eventually, and now rather than having to put more stress of heat on them, I can pull the chip, put another chip in if I need to, as and when they do eventually fail. But also for me now, the fact that my other board already has them chips socketed anyway, it made sense to make these ones now socketed so I can just quickly remove them, try them on my other board, see what I'm getting, see if they're working, or which one it is that's actually causing the problem. So I mean, of course I've sped this up, but as you can see, even at a fast speed, I think this is at ×8 speed I'm working at here, and it is it takes a lot. And also again, it's very easy to miss a pin, to yeah, not quite get something right. So I've checked all the chips on my other computer, every single chip's coming up fine, I'm getting everything working. So now I'm going back to my memory again, where I'm thinking, is there an issue here? So I'm checking to see if I'm getting any dead shorts between any of the chips. Obviously certain pins should be the parallel on the next chip over. But one thing I did notice was there. So remember in the first video where I had that little link wire underneath, I tested it, and when I tested it in the last run, I took the chips out, I was getting a continuity between them two. So now I thought, well, rather than link it underneath, I wonder whether the pin's short. So what I've done, I've literally gone on the top. It's 9, 10, 11, pin 12. So that's pin 12 I've linked out here, and I'm linking it out on the top. Again, just making sure before I link it across. That's it. So I'm just soldering across the top wires. I wouldn't recommend doing this, but again, for test purposes, just to see if I can get it working, I thought I'd give it a try. Right, so there's the link wire. Let's give it a try. So I've got the dead test cartridge in there to see what I get. Moment of truth, the comfortable wait, uncomfortable wait. Look at that. I can actually see proper text on there now. This is looking good. This is looking very good. And there's my little flashing across cursor. All looking good. Okay, so now it just clears all the screen, and then the next screen, I should get my SID chip. Should do the SID chip test. So fingers crossed that's all working. That's not so good. No sound coming out. So, tried the SID chip out of my other board. Getting sound. I tried that SID chip in my 84 board, and yeah, still no sound. So it looks like I got a dead SID chip, unfortunately. But I've got a working computer. That B isn't to do with anything on the memory, that's to do with the sticky keys that I'll sort out next time. Jupiter Lander, no glitches or anything on it. It's all looking good. Press F1. Got a joystick plugged in. Let's see what we get. Yep, that looks like it's working. No sound, of course, because the SID chip's bad, but yeah, it's a stage closer. I've got the graphics part. I know just a new SID chip in it will do it. Next video, I need to repair the keyboard, change that cluster of capacitors for one good capacitor. I'm going to change that memory anyway for slightly different memory. So them chips are 4164s. I'm going to change it for 4264s. Completely same memory, but just the original chips that are in there were 4264s. So I thought I'd just try and keep it all the same. Yeah, and I think that's it. I think once we've done that, we should have a fully working Commodore 64 again that I can use. Okay, I'll see you next time.